Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence. I'm Francis McCarthy, and the painting I'm bringing you today is called Riffing on John Francis Murphy. Now, I may have a reference to his actual painting. It has a real title. I took so many liberties with it, though. I'm not calling it a study. His was called John Francis Murphy Sunday October, which is a clever idea for titling. I could get a bunch of titles out of that. What did I change? Well, if you really want to know, go on tip over the members area. You get anything I paint, you get to see the reference image. We're missing a bit of the drawing here because I forgot to zoom in, and it's okay. You see me do a lot of drawings. I will say, okay, I'm working on the textured board. It's done. The process is on the channel. Just put the word board is what I would put in the search because I'm not sure textured is considered to be an actual word. You can see my board prep process, which is using black gesso and kind of palette knives and newsprint to create a very organic texture. A multi-step process, which is featured in my book, it's coming. I think a physical form. We'll talk about that later. But there's a whole a section in a chapter about that. But you got a video right there on the channel, so check it out. The thing is with the textures, you got to be careful because if you get real slapdash, get real hurry, you get like these big long lines that will tend to cut through. Like, see these trees we have here? If we had too many like horizontal shapes cutting through, it messes with you. So I devised a technique for creating an organic texture. Two layers of the gesso. It's quite time consuming, I will say. And this board was actually mostly prepared by my student Ash, who helped me out to do some of these. And they look good. Now the final step, which is the color you see, this ochre color, I go in with a brush and some oil paint. And it helps fill in some of the bits of the texture and just get a very organic feeling across. And it's very definitely a certain feeling. You have to paint and adjust how you paint on the textured board. You got to kind of scrub. That's one of the reasons I'm using a little more inexpensive brush here. I know I'm going to be abusing it quite a lot. Yeah. So why am I calling it Riffing on John Francis Murphy? Well, and you could find this painting, I think, just by putting the title I just gave you in the search engine, maybe. I don't know. It wasn't very high res, but there were things about it I liked and things about it I didn't like. One thing I really like is I like the basic composition with this grouping of trees. I felt his was a little, and I'm not saying I'm better than John, gosh no, but things I didn't like about it were the masses of trees weren't as weighty as I'm doing them here. Far more wispy. Also, I went a bit darker on the whole foreground thing. He had quite a lot of highlights, and that's something I've not necessarily even highlights, but fairly bright lights. And I've been doing that for ages. I mean, when you take a photo, you see it in the reference like that. But I have to tell you, I mean, here's a tip. What are we at? We're at 4 minutes. Well, there were some tips already kind of on the boards and things, but this is a good tip, when you have these foreground elements and you start putting light stuff in the foreground, like here, you can see how I made the corners. It's not totally dark and black, but he had quite bright highlights there, and you'd see that in your reference too. I think it's distracting. I think it helps, it pulls away from a sense of depth. I've done it, and I've done it, and I've done it, and it's one of the way I kind of figured out that it wasn't necessarily, didn't work out for me, is how I'll say it. is by doing redos. And one of the things I found is if I just darken the whole entire foreground, that it created instant depth. Okay. Now, see, other reasons why I'm calling this, say, a riffing is I subbed out his sky. It wasn't brilliant. He's certainly capable of painting some really good skies. The last painting we did on the channel here, just go back a couple more, a very faithful interpretation of a John Francis Murphy, not riffing at all. You know, doing a good regular study. But here, I'm just taking inspiration from his painting and doing my own painting. And taking what I want, leaving the rest, you know, just like in that song. But you should never have taken the very best, right? Anyway, it's taken me years to get to a point where I'm looking at a master painting and going, well, I like this, I like that, but I don't like this and I don't like that, but I think I'm going to make a painting based on this anyway, and that is why I call it riffing. It's like doing a cover song, you know, and it's done in music all the time. And I suspect it's been done a bit in the art world too. Maybe it's not using that language. A lot of artists are famous for doing studies after other artists. But what I don't know is if they were super concerned with accuracy or if they were just saying, well, this is what I do. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. Now, in his painting, and I left it that way because I didn't really know how to resolve it, and I think it works fine. The whole, like these houses, they look like they're just kind of buried in a haze of foliage, you know. Everything's very vague, and I just left it vague, and I end up I think it ends up working pretty well and looking pretty good. Well, the other thing I did was like I had way less contrast than I'm doing now, and that's not always the case with him, but I found it irksome, so I beefed it up, you know, and I also changed the tree shapes quite a lot, and I made some things that were vague more definite, and I added more shadows in the tree shapes. But things I did take from his painting was the basic overall composition, of course, the theme, the basic coloration, and certain things like you'll see I'm even going to be popping in some real bright red coming up. That was in his painting, and I'm going to pop in some quite bright greens as well, and that was also in his painting. So it was actually pretty fun. It went pretty quick. Like, this would be a great one to check out in the members area. First of all, you get to see the whole painting done, and sorry about that. I try to record everything, but you know, it went pretty quick because I'd already decided I wasn't that into doing a faithful blow by blow. Also, his was very loose, very abstract, and this is one of the things that I thought would be good about going after it. I tend to I mean, I'm not overly tight with my painting, but I was really thinking about this and talking about this again. You'd see it in the members area where I'm going, well, I really don't know what this is, and you know, just painting it. That's tough for me. I like to know what it is, even if I'm painting it quickly. But so many of the tonalists were very loose, very abstract, and more so than I am. And it's valuable. It's definitely a direction I'd like to head in more. And I say that with a caveat because I don't like things that are so loose and so falling apart. I'll give you a good example. You know, most of Turner's later work doesn't float my boat. Now, he's not a tonalist, but he's definitely one of the people that really started painting on an abstract sort of course. And all to the good. I respect his place in art history. It's just, it doesn't move me. It's not my cup of tea. It's a little too loose. That said, you know, as far as moderns, I can appreciate people like Franz Klein and things, but you won't see me salivating over Franz Klein the way you will over a great Murphy or a great Ines. So what I admire and want to integrate into my work is a level of abstraction, but still within the realm of representation. You can say, well, that's a field, or that's some clump of trees, or I think those houses are buried by some trees there, so I'm only seeing the roofs. Things like that. It's obviously a stream. And I'm actually real happy with the way this painting came out. The other thing is, like, with this texture, you kind of got to work in a bigger, broader way. I was really stoked, and I really love the way the underpainting looks on the texture, just which was done just with burnt umber, and then later on I went in with the burnt umber and black mixture. So at no point did I go out into full 100% black, but I went pretty dark, and I think it works. I think it's quite a successful painting, and I'm going to pop it in the store, and maybe you'd be interested in buying it and supporting me. I am getting ready to make some other moves in other directions with selling my work, and I'll keep you up to date on that. Also getting back to the idea of working on the mailing list and possibly putting some discount codes and things out there. So it's still there on the site. It's you'll definitely see it in the older videos. And if you're an artist, I'm sure you've run into this marketing thing where you want to keep a mail list going, and I have people on my mailing list, but it's been a little while since I sent out a mail to anybody, or made many marketing efforts at all, because probably not much different from you. I just like to make the paintings, and I sell a few here and there, but I definitely would like to sell more, and it would be great. Even in this economic environment, I think people still do buy work. It's obviously a question of getting it in front of them, right? So back to the painting, things are taking on a bit more of a kind of patchy feel, which I end up reconciling with my trusty paper towel. So that's something I get questions about on the channel all the time. What are you doing with the paper towel? And a lot of people guess it too right after. Are you softening? Yes, I am. Yeah, and just pushing things in. You can't have well, here's another tip for you, for those of you who made it to the 12-minute mark. I have some DVDs from good old Richard Schmid, and he's a brilliant painter. And the thing that he does, like stuff with a palette knife, he does big, broad, abstract shapes, and then he keeps adding and adding and adding. And the thing is, one of the things he pointed out that I got a long time ago was you cannot have sharp edges and sharp attention getting patches of color and stuff everywhere across your painting. It just is too exhausting. So a lot of times you'll see me pull out a paper towel and soften things down. I definitely have to do that on the texture, because there's a lot of fighting just to get color in the nooks and crannies. Although a lot of expressive brushwork happens too, but I probably do it a bit on almost every painting. The thing you need to be careful with when you're tamping your painting down with that paper towel is to keep changing it and turning around. Otherwise, what you'll be doing is you'll move light paint into your dark areas and dark paint into your light areas and just make a giant mess. So you need to be a bit strategic with it. But it's a great technique, and you can actually, there are a lot of paintings I don't even do that with a paper towel, but even there I know I've got basically soft edges and hard edges, and you want your hard edges. There's another tip for those of you who made it to the 13 something minute mark. I got this tip off of Bob Rome, and that is that your point of interest should be where very clear, because it's the darkest contrast. So where the darkest meets the light, obviously you can see it's that main tree there running into the lightest bit of the sky, and a bit too down in the river. That's all working together to reinforce that area, and everything else has got far less contrast. So that's strategic, but I've actually internalized it. I really don't have to sit there and think, oh, I need to do this, area of intense contrast. I'll tell you my basic thing I just remember that I like to do is throw the lightest bit of the sky right up against the trees, which will create that invariably. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be popping this up. Today's Sunday, October 16th, 2022. I'll probably pop this up tomorrow, maybe later on Tuesday. Anyway, be looking for it, and until I come back with another video, do me a favor, do me a solid. And be sure to leave me a like and comment. Comments really make me happy. Support me any way you can. If you get value from this channel and you can afford to do something to help me, please do so. I did get some wonderful donations on my my website, and I appreciate that. Anyway, till I come back, take good care, stay out of trouble. God bless you and your family.